Hello world from Oktopost headquarters. This is Radically Transparent, Oktopost's original podcast show on B2B marketing now. I'm Jennifer Gutman, Director of Social Strategy, and in most episodes of this podcast will feature B2B marketing leaders who will share their radically transparent truths behind being a modern day marketer and what it takes to grow ideas, take risks, and impact change. Joining me on this episode is Erik Harbison, President and co-founder of The Marketing Help, the #1 resource for proactively advancing your marketing career. Based in Philadelphia, The Marketing Help is filled with free resources, guides, podcasts, blogs, and loaded with insider tips for digital marketers at any level seeking their ideal marketing job and career. And we're lucky enough to have Erik on the show. Erik, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jen, how are you? Glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. And I have to say, so when I first heard of The Marketing Help, it was actually because I received an invitation to join you guys in your Slack channel, which was a phenomenal idea and got me through some pretty rough times this year. I'm sure we can all relate to as we were working from home in 2020. So I was hoping you could maybe kick off by telling us a little bit more about The Marketing Help and really how it came to be.
Yes. So the Marketing Help, it's one of those things where the impetus for the Marketing Help was really based off of a need from marketers. So, Jed, my business partner, Jed Singer. So we were actually guest speakers at Drexel University about 10 years ago. We launched a digital marketing course. So it was focused on educating those that wanted a career in digital marketing. And here we learned throughout the course, we were getting questions from the students, job interview tips, resume tips. Now, these are different than just general career services because it was specific to marketing. And then we realized we had a network of people we can connect them with. And we had some resources that we had put together in our day-to-day lives that were valuable. And it kind of dawned on us that there was no resource for marketers to navigate these challenges throughout their career. Now, it started with student level. And then over the course of, I'd say 5 years or so, we realized that there's opportunities across multiple levels that have this same need. So, the class kind of opened our eyes to a need, and then we kind of took that and ran with it and said, hey, did we want? What would we have wanted coming up in our careers, respective careers, that would have been helpful? And that kind of, the brainstorming became very powerful, and all the ideas we just had to kind of organize. And then here you go. The Marketing Help became something more formalized, I'll say about 4 or 5 years ago.
Incredible. And today, so you mentioned you started off kind of as almost a student resource and teaching a course. So can you give a little bit of information about your demographics today with the Marketing Help, who you're helping?
Yeah, I'd say probably half the audience is either students or associates, and associate defined as they're 0 to 2 years in their marketing career. And then there's probably another percentage, a little more like 30% of manager level. So just inherited a team, just became promoted, and they're trying to figure out what makes the most sense for their marketing team. Then the last percentage is going to be executive level, director, VP and above, who quite frankly have questions about how do I retain marketers today? And, knowing that obviously their performance is graded upon how effective they are as a team, and they just have questions about how to best manage those teams.
Managing teams is not easy. And especially in 2020, I'm sure, as we're all working from home, and we kind of were catapulted into this digital transformation. Do you think that a good leader or good marketing manager can be made on Zoom?
Could be made on Zoom?
Right? Because when it comes to marketing, one of the best parts about marketing is being able to sit in a room together and really brainstorm. And we have breakout rooms on Zoom, but it's not the same feeling as having that person-to-person connection and learning from one another and brainstorming. So in terms of kind of management style, where do you see kind of is playing working from home? Is this something that you've seen helping, with the Marketing Help coaching on management style in that sense?
Yeah. So I think the challenge for marketing managers now is, yes, there was a thriving brainstorm happening in offices, and then boom, next thing you know, it's, oh, by the way, still be effective, still hit your goals, but you have to do it as a distributed team. And what happens there is what we've seen be a challenge for marketing managers and marketing teams is they forget that the power of being a good manager is that you manage people and not teams. So Susie may enjoy a phone call, and Billy may enjoy a Zoom call at, after hours, when he's done doing his work for the day. If you don't represent or recognize what makes each of your team members effective, what makes them work most effectively, then that's a miss. Now, even more so in a virtual setup where, again, not everybody loves a Zoom call. Not everyone loves to be called out on a Zoom call, even though I'm more comfortable behind my screen. So for some people, the introverts become more introverted. The extroverts may become more frustrated because they don't have the room like they did when you were meeting in the conference room.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And, in terms of the companies, you mentioned that the marketing help was started because you and your partner, Jed, were kind of thinking about what didn't you have as a marketer as you made your career in marketing. And my question to you there is, the marketing help is this outside resource. Who is responsible inside of an organization, if anyone, for training? Or I think what we see a lot of today is retraining, right? Because, I remember I went to Muhlenberg College, and a professor had started off our communication class with the statement of, welcome to my class. By the time you graduate in 4 years, everything you've learned will be obsolete. So good luck in the career, right? So that's kind of like the nature of our industry. But who should really own that? Because in some way, there's a lot of really great employees who have great skills, but maybe they're not fit for today's digital marketing atmosphere. So should we be focused on retraining those employees? Should those be retrained by the company themselves, or should it be on the employee to get that training and then bring it to the teams?
Yeah, that's a great question because, my initial thought on this is it's kind of a balanced responsibility. Both sides should care. But if you think about if I'm a marketing manager and I want to build a successful team, well, then part of my plan, part of my budget should be focused on professional development, period. And it's not an afterthought. It's not a maybe, it's a definite. It's talked about during onboarding. It's kind of it should be built into the culture of every team, quite frankly, but for marketing, especially, if I'm a manager that wants A players, if I'm a manager that has goals to hit, then I'm going to have this built in to my conversations. Now, on the flip side of that, if I'm a marketer that really cares about my career and career development, then it might be something that I talk about as early as the interview process. So imagine if you're interviewing your candidate and then you ask the question to the hiring manager, what part of my day-to-day or my month or quarter is focused on professional development. And if there isn't a good answer for that marketer, probably not a good fit, for you to take that job. Now, if you're in the job, let's say something comes up as an initiative, then yeah, it kind of falls on the team member to figure out, okay, where are my gaps? And I need to bring this up in my next one-on-one conversation.
Interesting. So when you talk about a one-on-one, what are some of the components, right, of a one-on-one? We all live for them. But what are what makes a good one-on-one meeting, for the employee coming to the table, for the manager coming to the table, from the whirlwind and eye of the storm of 2020, right? You have all these new distractions around you, but what do you bring to a one-on-one, and what should you be looking for as a marketer?
It's funny. It reminds me of one of my agencies I used to work for. We had a leadership meeting. It was all the directors would get together. And I can remember somebody coming into a meeting and saying, hey, great week so far. No one cried in my one-on-ones. So you almost feel like one-on-one should not be situations where someone's laughing, someone's crying, and you end up, celebrating something. One-on-ones, in my mind, I should say the most effective one-on-ones, think of those as an opportunity for the team member to showcase initiative. One-on-one should not be owned by the manager. One-on-one should be owned by the team member. And the reason for that is because, I learned in my career, later in my career, that, when you have the mindset of make the one-on-one the responsibility of the team member, guess what? Guess who has a productive meeting when the accountability is on that team member? to bring value to the conversation. And it isn't just about making updates to your projects. It isn't just talking about, here's what I did this week. No. It's your time to say, hey, manager, I have a problem. Hey, manager, I need help. Hey, manager, when can I, build my skill set in X, Y, and Z? So when you shift the onus to that team member and then set the expectation and say, hey, your time, I'm just here to help, is what the manager would say. Watch how effective those conversations can turn. Oh, by the way, they definitely need an agenda, which is owned by the team member. And if you're listening and you haven't embraced this, we'll try this for the next month and see how much more effective those conversations become.
I think that's a good November challenge. So for all the listeners, we look forward to hearing how those one-on-one meetings start turning around. And speaking of that, and because the show, right, is called Radical Transparency, and what I'm curious about in terms of yourself, your, great presence to interview, and, this great personality. Do you have anything that keeps you up at night professionally? I mean, I looked at your LinkedIn profile. You have such incredible experience and marketing background. Does anything keep you up at night?
I mean,
you have it all together.
Well, no, I mean, when you think about, what I do day to day now, so, transferring 30 years of marketing positions into now kind of rededicating my time and experience back to marketers. What keeps me up at night is when I continue to hear, bothersome trends about poor management, poor leadership. And again, having been a VP CMO myself, I'm at fault too. I mean, I was in some cases not an effective manager. I had to learn what to do better. But when I listen to marketers that I'm helping, and they all kind of recount these same issues that were still existing 20 years ago, that just worries me in terms of, are the managers being put in positions to succeed? Are those that are promoting managers doing it the right way? Are companies embracing this to set themselves up for success? Or is just going to be a constant cycle of poor manager after poor manager? And where that bothers me or keeps me up at night is really tied to the fact of how successful can I be in helping somebody if, the person that's making the hire may not be seeing it through the right lens or a neutral lens when it comes to, hiring entry level, or in some cases, if I'm working with somebody who is a manager, trying to kind of get the eyes open of the senior leadership, which, may not be as connected to the digital world as they could be. So that's one thing.
One thing of the probably. No, but you bring up some interesting points there. And I think something that's interesting to me is, you mentioned that you kind of see some common themes or common threads of poor management or kind of common challenges that are brought to your attention. Could you share some of those with us, and maybe also give, with those challenges, some ideas for either solutions or how to reframe or rethink about those challenges?
Sure. It starts with the hiring process. So, and listen, everyone knows when it comes to getting hired for a position, there's cognitive biases that you're working against when it comes to the person on the other side of the screen that's making the decision. So the one thing that's challenging is that, folks that are, tend to hire only those that have a 4-year degree. And we all know somebody in our respective networks that has been very successful, maybe not finishing a 4-year degree, maybe even has a 2-year degree. Doesn't matter. You know why? Because they taught themselves how to be great at that one skill set. And look at them now. The drive and the ambition in most cases is the thing that matters when it comes to, gauging success. I've hired people that have not had 4-year degrees and have been very happy about it. It was a battle to convince HR and other folks about the challenges, and it was worth and reasons why that hire made sense. So that's one area. The other area would be, the management. I should say the focus on professional development from management for marketing teams. And this, goes back to, conversations with some clients we've worked with where there's just a kind of afterthought approach to upskilling marketers. Because again, everyone wants the same thing. We need to hit our goals. Okay. But here's what makes a successful marketing team. It isn't that you have just hired the best SEO person, the best paid search person. No, no, no. You've given the team an element of feeling successful, feeling rewarded, and feeling fulfilled. If those three things aren't met by your team, you're not going to exceed or meet your goals as you want to. So this lack of investment in professional development is a common theme that we see and hear, which is easily fixed by, well, commit to management, commit to some 90-day investment in identifying where the skills gaps are, giving your team chances to execute, and really be pushed outside their comfort zone to learn something new.
Yeah, I think that's great advice in terms of, how to kind of approach, even back to our our previous question about who's responsible for the training, or, right, if it's even professional development in some way to get employees to open up how they're thinking about something or approaching something, and maybe to approach it in even a different way. Which also leads me, so one of the challenges that we see here at Oktopost, with our clients, is they often come to us, and I know there's like a running joke between marketing and sales, right? There's the constant battle between the two. And really, we all need to be working in unity, but it's not so simple. My question for you, in terms of what you do, what does the future of sales and marketing look like to you in today's environment, where from my chair, it seems that marketers have a more essential role than ever before? Do you think that sales and marketing, there's a hope that they can work together, or you think that the battle between the two will forever live on?
So, I mean, in one position where I actually oversaw both sales and marketing teams, the team building efforts are just as important as, making sure that the marketing qualified leads are legitimate enough for the sales team. But when sales teams and marketing teams, connect with each other as people, it may sound corny, it may sound kind of, high level, but it matters when the person that, you look at more than just the person cranking out the MQLs. When you start to connect with there and be empathetic, this goes both ways too, right? Be empathetic for the salesperson that really has to follow through and do their thing. That's an element that can help those teams work more closely together. Now, future of, there's definitely an aspect of automation that comes into play here, where things can be more automated to help with the processing of, marketing qualified leads to becoming sales qualified leads. Look at the influx of chatbots and what they're doing. But if you really look into how they work and how they can work, are you challenging yourself to learn that and try that as an organization, has a sales team and a marketing team? I'm not talking about live chat. Hey, can I help you today? No. I'm talking about setting up automated decision tree sorts of situations that might actually cut down the number of leads, but might increase the quality because of just some, questions that you're asking. I'm not saying this is the magic bullet fix.
Right.
I'm saying this might be a way to test things to make, reduce some of that friction between both sides, just in the overall process.
Chatbots are interesting. I feel also when you tell a marketer about AI, we all get a little nervous. Our robot's going to take over our job. I'd like to think they won't, but who knows, right? Because in 4 years, everything will be obsolete. But with that, we do talk here a lot about skill set, mindset, and tool set. It's kind of these three common themes that we break our work into, that we coach clients on, especially when it comes to digital transformation. What are some of and we spoke a little bit about the skill sets and, chatbots, but what are some of the skill sets, mindsets, or tool sets you feel are required for the modern day marketer right now to thrive in their position, in their organizations?
Yeah, I love how you guys do that. I mean, I think that's great that you can simplify it to skill sets, mindsets, and tool sets. When I look at, two aspects or two communities, one is the marketers today trying to get their first job. And then I look at the successful marketers that have made a path for themselves, maybe one or two, jobs in. And I kind of look at those two universes and say, well, what are the ubiquitous skill sets for those two communities? And the reality is, even more so now, it's communication and relationship building. And no, these aren't being taught in high school.
You say
nor are they.
communication, is it internal communication or would you say overall? What can you be more
Yeah,
specific?
communication, I'd say just in rare forms of just written
Got
and
it.
oral communication.
Got it.
Everyone says, "Oh, I wrote an essay in college," or "I've written a plan before." I know. Yeah, I mean, but if you do it once a quarter, that's not enough. Um, so it's almost like intensive writing or effective business communication feels like that's a skill set that any marketer is going to need forever, and relationship
One
building
page
especially.
plan, right? How
Yeah.
to
Oh
write the
yeah.
1 page plan.
Right. Use 5 words instead of 15 to get your point across. But relationship building also, because guess what? Building relationships now is different because now it's got to be done through screens and not through in-person meetings. So how well can somebody navigate that? Because there's still a way to be very cordial and focus on building relationships virtually, but is that what's being taught? Is that what people are doing? So that's a skill set, a mindset. I think, again, this is kind of relevant 10 years ago, 10 years from now, and that's accountability. Can I go into a job? Can I go into a promotion? Can I go into an interview? And can I showcase my accountability? And I learned this from a coworker like 3 jobs ago, where he was speaking to our team on ways we could work better together with his team. And he said, "Listen, all I care about is that your say-do ratio equals 1." That struck me as like, wait a minute. And then you think through it, it's like, whatever I say I'm going to do, I do it, right? The balance, it's got to be 1. It's got to equal each other. If I say I'm going to do 4 things, I better do 4 things. And that is the mindset I think every marketer needs to embrace. Because if you're following that, think about it, if you're following that in everything you do, your reputation will precede you as somebody who holds themselves accountable, right or wrong. Just hold yourselves accountable. So I think that's probably one of the key mindsets.
I think that's a powerful one. Hold yourself
Um,
accountable. Be an
yeah,
owner.
be an owner of your actions, tied to whatever you say you're going to do. Now, listen, if you say you're going to do 3 things and you can only do 2 of them, well, then communicate that you can't make that 3rd thing. That's how you still keep yourself accountable if you can't do it. Tool sets. So you mentioned tool sets real quick. I think any tool set, any marketer, regardless of what your specialty is, if you can't analyze a set of data, that's a miss. So analytics, whether it's social analytics, Google Analytics, when's the last time you looked at a paid search report? I mean, just get familiar with what these tools, these reports look like, but more importantly, know how to analyze them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say any tool that is tied to customer relationship is massive, right? I mean, even elements of what Oktopost provides is critical to be able to we all know it's about the journey now. So any tool that you can use that showcases and gives you ability to see and understand what's happening through aspects of the customer journey, learn that tool.
Good stuff. Now, question on that, learn that tool. So I've seen on my LinkedIn, I don't know if you've seen it, and sometimes I wonder if they're chatbots, but I've seen across LinkedIn, there's this popular hashtag at the moment, open to work. And a lot of people are using this hashtag to find work, given the circumstances of the pandemic and people losing jobs and the situation currently. What I'm curious about in terms of analyzing reports and the technology, a lot of times when you get that technology, you don't get your hands on it until you're actually in that job that's using, let's say, a specific piece of technology specific to that role or that company. And now, right, with today, there's so many different types of technology and competitors. What are some interview trends that you're seeing today, and for marketers, hashtag open to work, but what are some of the trends you're seeing? And then kind of going back to the analytics question, but what can marketers do to build those skills that sometimes it's a catch-22, right? So like your basic, I guess, Google Analytics and certain platforms you can get access to if you're not employed by a specific company. But what's 1 or 2 great ways that we can learn those skills if we're not currently using them or paying for subscription? I'm thinking of what comes to my mind too is Marketo, right? Like, yeah, it's a huge one, and it's they have a training that you go through. But if you're looking to be kind of getting your hands on those tools, what can we do?
Yeah.
Something
So,
new?
well, I mean, happy to help always. Um, so let me start with the skill question first and then go into the open to work question. So the skills question, that's a great one because think about it. If you're in that position, I want to prepare for this role or prepare for my promotion, but I need to, increase my level of expertise in tool X. For those new to the market, for those new to looking to interview, right? This is your first job and you want to show, I don't have $140 a month to plop down for tool X. Well, the first thing you do is you find a parallel, because here's the reality. If you walk into an interview and say, I'm familiar with tool A, and they use tool B, there's probably a 70% overlap in functionality with those two tool sets.
That's a
So,
great piece of advice. I was going to say, what a hack. That's
well,
actually,
yeah,
that's a good
yeah.
one.
And even so, Marketo, you're right. I mean, I'm not going to invest in that myself out of my own pocket, but if I learned HubSpot, right, for free,
Yeah.
for someone to sit in a conversation and make that parallel in the interview for the hiring manager, what a win that is. The other hack is always, sign up for the free trial, block out your calendar for 7 days and just, watch some YouTube videos in advance of that and just try to speed learn in the best way possible. Just try to take access of that free trial and try to get as many reps as possible through the tools. Now that's not going to work for every tool, but it's, maximizing the free trial. So once you do that, that's a way to show competency in that skill. If you're in the position, chances are you may know somebody at your current company or at other companies that do use that tool. When's the last time you saw a LinkedIn post where somebody said, hey, looking for someone in my network that uses Marketo, DM me for more information. And guess what happens when you set up 2 calls with that person to have them walk through the 20% of Marketo that I need to know if I were to walk in a position where I need to know how to use it. That sounds like something anybody in their
My
network
mind is
would
just
do.
blown. I just went quiet because I didn't even think to do that. And that's actually, that's genius. My wheels are spinning, but that's a good one.
So yeah, so I mean, you're taking advantage of the network you work so hard to build, and all you're doing is trying to, again, for purposes of the interview, it's really the hiring manager is not looking for you to be an expert unless you're signing up to be the Marketo expert. But if you're in a position that uses these tools, showing that you understand how they work, admitting and being truthful to say that, yes, I'm in the process of learning. Here's what I did. Here's the initiative I took
Mm-hmm.
to figure out more about this tool. So that story matters. So those are ways to kind of learn more about those tools prior to the conversation. Now, ways to get hands-on experience. Here's another post you rarely see in LinkedIn. Does anybody have a need for support in X? And tapping into your network, LinkedIn, friends, family. Everyone has somebody that's running a business that probably doesn't know how to use WordPress, Squarespace, or Wix. Where here you come in to say, well, would it be okay if I ran a couple of tests? Whatever the channel, whatever the channel is that you're trying to grow a discipline in, tap into those networks to see if someone is available that you can help for free. And there you get the experience.
What's really interesting, and again, you've just blown my mind. So I know for people listening, you can't see my face right now, but you've really just blown my mind. And what I'm thinking about, so part of my role at Oktopost is helping our customers with employee advocacy programs and helping their employees become thought leaders. What would be really interesting for anyone listening, if you want to give it a try and let me know how it goes, but taking that piece of advice of kind of making yourself that expert, if you're learning to gain a new skill, and using that almost as even positioning yourself as a thought leader to some sort, right? Opening up the conversation, but also giving yourself kind of that thought leadership, paving the way of, hey, looking to do X, or anyone out there need help with X. It does position you in some way as an expert because people are going to start putting their trust in you. That's a really interesting way, I think, also to use your network.
Yep.
But again, when it comes to thought leadership, and we just had an episode about thought leadership, so it's definitely top of mind. And we're all about social, and sometimes what ends up happening is people say, like, how do I break through the noise? And it almost is like, hey, offer something, right? This could be a great way to break the noise, is like actually offering help or service or whatever it may be to your network. And That's really interesting. I'm going to have to sit with that idea more to like kind of see how we can work that into an employee advocacy program. But that's really, really interesting.
Even if you're in those
And
use cases,
vulnerable.
well, and using those in that use case, targeting the hashtag open to work, because people that need potentially that skill enhancement are absolutely following that hashtag
Yeah.
of open to work, especially those that are in between jobs or looking for their next job. Absolutely can position yourself as the thought leader, someone to contact if you need help in this area.
My mind is officially blown. I love it. I love it. And I'm just like, I'm keeping an eye on the clock, and I know our time is winding down. So I have a few more questions.
Yep.
And one of them actually that I'm interested in hearing, because I see you also run a pretty successful podcast. So I'm going to plug your podcast on our podcast. But I think if anyone listening is looking for more marketing career help, I think this is a fantastic podcast to listen to, because it's really tackling a lot of the common questions that we spoke about today and more, and tips to grow your career as a marketer. Could you give a little plug on the show and maybe your best all-time career advice on our podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. And thanks for that. The Marketing Careers podcast, again, it was a weekend project. I can remember when I heard the first episode, because I had spent well, the first episode was me just giving a heads up on what the podcast was about. And then I think the first 4 or 5 episodes were just me monologuing. But I'd spent, I'd say 2 years prior to that in the podcast community, because it was an audience persona we were targeting in my last job. So I really got to know, the power of podcasting, was very interested in it. Like everyone else, never wanted to hear my voice. So that kind of kept me from getting there. But once I got over the hump, decided to make this really just kind of what you said. It's going to be the place to go to get inspiration and information on how to advance my marketing career, no matter who I was. So what started as a weekend project, now we're over 5,000 downloads.
Amazing.
Which for us, again, downloads are just a metric of movement and progress. But what we like, or what we like hearing, is when we get emails and we get contacted and people say, "Hey, great episode. What about this? Can I learn more about this?" And people just reaching out to get more resources. If we know we're helping the community of marketers, that's why we do it. Advice, I'd say, the number one piece of advice for anyone in a marketing career sounds pretty simple, but when you're navigating your marketing career, think about it like a marketing campaign.
Oh,
as marketers,
where are we going with this marketing campaign, Eric?
It's like, as marketers, we're like, oh no, duh, it makes so much sense. But have you tried it? Because every marketing campaign has what? Objective goals, target audience, KPIs, ways to know that if it's working or not working. And when you think about that with your career, it will absolutely guide you in the right path. Because a lot of people, the mistake they make is they just apply to jobs. Mm-hmm. And what they don't think about is, well, what kind of company do I want to work for? There's things you can ask yourself to set up the right path for yourself, including a job search plan, so that when you start putting the energy towards it, it takes you, down a path that feels a little bit more fulfilling and a little bit more purposeful. So that's probably the one learning, is like, if you think about it that way, when you build the plan for your marketing career job search, things become a little bit more focused, a little more clear. And then the outreach that you send, the emails that you send, have a little bit more effectiveness.
Completely. So last question for you. Yeah. Actually, second to last question. Sure. Radically transparent. So, right, social media is great these days. I can pretty much go on LinkedIn, find you on LinkedIn, Eric, listen to all your podcasts, see your work history, what you've been up to, what you've written, what's going on in Philadelphia, if you will. Mm-hmm. Would you be willing to share with us today something about yourself that we cannot find on LinkedIn?
I'd say probably the one thing that may take a while to uncover, if at all. Actually, so I'm actually certified to be a wedding officiant.
Are you really?
And I did it with purpose. My niece, who actually recently got married, which I didn't officiate.
Congratulations, or I'm in the Israeli office, so Mazal Tov.
Thank you. So I did it for a couple of reasons. One, I'm somebody who was the biggest introvert when I first got into my career. I took a Dale Carnegie program that changed my life. That got me out to be more comfortable public speaking. And then I was just trying to find ways to do things to kind of leverage, that kind of evolution I had in my own professional career. Well, hey, standing in front of strangers, officiating a wedding, I've seen it enough myself that I said, I want to do that. So I went through the process, and then I ended up getting asked to do one a couple of years ago. It's funny because, careful what you wish for, right? So I wanted to do it just to help, right? And then my wife had a friend that was getting married, and they asked me if I wanted to do it. I figured, okay, sure. It's probably going to be backyard, like a barbecue, something that's very low key. 200 people.
No big deal.
And here's me, preparing for this. Like, this isn't what I was expecting, but I'm going to battle through. And it was a kind of a great kind of ending to the whole reason why I did it, is to just get out there, help somebody that needed help. Be trained, do a good job. And now, knowing that I've done one and would love to do more, but
so basically, if you're listening, you need marketing help or to get married, Erik's your man.
Right. Not in a church, not denominational, parks, backyards, or Zoom, probably could do that too.
Sounds great. And so, Erik, if we are getting married and we need you, or, more importantly, we need some marketing help, where are the best places we can find you? Where are you most active?
So LinkedIn is going to be the best place to do it. Please, I encourage everyone to connect with me on LinkedIn. And please, here's another tip to identify yourself as somebody, coming from this conversation. And just so I know, in the subject line for that outreach, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, just put Oktopost in the subject line. But, connect, follow on LinkedIn. You can email me directly. So I'll give you my direct email address, always wanting to help. It's Erik, E-R-I-K, at themarketinghelp.co. And then for anybody that wants marketing career advice or resources, you can go to themarketinghelp.co. I'll say /membership, because our greatest free resource is on that page. And my point about, setting a marketing plan, using it as a guide for your marketing career, our most comprehensive guide is on that page if anybody wants that direction.
Incredible. Erik, the man, the myth, the legend, the marketing help, and the wedding officiant. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to future conversations, collaboration, and stay healthy.
Definitely. Thank you, Jen. You did the same. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. I'm Jennifer Gutman, your host and Director of Social Strategy at Oktopost. For more incredible episodes, be sure to follow our channel, B2B Marketing Now, wherever you get your podcasts.